today is what to do when you've worked with the buyer, you found the property, and now you're ready to prepare an offer for them to put a bid on a property. So what do you think you need to gather in order to make a presentation on behalf of your buyer? What information do you gather normally when you're doing that?
Proof of funds or a pre-approval letter?
Right?
So we're presenting to the seller? I have the buyer and I'm presenting to the seller?
You have a buyer and you're getting prepared to write an offer to present to the seller, yes.
Okay, so I want comps, make sure that my buyer's
Right?
making a good offer.
Right? Because you have to guide them, right, on what's the value, is it appropriately priced or not? What else? So we have the pre-approval or proof of funds. We have the CMA for the buyer. What else do you think you need?
Earnest
The
money?
seller's disclosures.
Seller's disclosures, earnest money. Used to be we would present the earnest money right with the contract. Is anybody on here old school or is everybody newer? Who's old school like me?
Old school.
Okay, so back in the day, we used to have to present the check with the offer, but back in the day, we also presented our offers face to face, which was fantastic, far better than what we do today. Today, we put the earnest money on there and we let the buyer know that when your offer is accepted, you're going to have, like 24 or 48 hours to get that check to the listing office. So we do want to have them mentally prepared to bring a check when their offer is accepted, and also make sure that they have that earnest money in the bank. So earnest money is the correct, is a good answer, because you want to say, okay, do you have the funds available in the bank for this earnest money? And if you do a two-step earnest money where you bring a smaller amount at the beginning and then increase it after the inspection and attorney review matters have been resolved, then explain that to them too, that they're going to bring X number of dollars up front, and then it's exactly what it says, right? It's earnest money. It's saying, I'm being earnest in making this offer. I intend to fulfill my requirements per the contract and close on this transaction, assuming that everything goes as planned per the contract. And so sometimes buyers will say, well, why do I have to give them money? And well, why does the buyer have to take their property off the market? For you, if you're not going to show in earnest that you're going to seriously close on this transaction, unless some portion of the contract falls apart. Okay, and then I like to give a smaller amount up front if it's possible, if I can, and then increase it after attorney review and inspection. The reason why I like to do that is because I'm only tying up a small portion of my buyer's funds. And if something happens during the inspection and attorney review and we have to walk and find another property, I want them to still be liquid. I want them to have money to put the next earnest money down and not have to wait for all their funds to come back from the company that's holding it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So, and what else? There's a whole lot more you got to do. Has anybody here written and presented an offer other than Nicole and I?
Yes. Not yet.
No.
Okay. All right. Well, then that lets me know that, you guys might not know a lot of the answers, because what you learn in school, have you found that what you learn in school to get your license doesn't apply to what you have to do to sell real estate?
Totally.
Yes, totally.
Oh man.
Yeah, it's like maybe 10% of what you learn in school you actually use in the field, and the rest of it you just need to know to pass the test and to do your continuing ed tests and all that. But it's not applicable to actually selling real estate. So it's kind of crazy. And it's always been that way. This is my 25th year in the business, so trust me when I tell you it's always been that way. You learn far more in the field and from the training in your office than you ever learn in the real estate class about selling real estate. All right, so on, let's see what page it is on your document. I think on, oh, let's see here. Oh, maybe it's not on, I have a checklist on mine. I don't see it on yours. So basically, just as you said, the pre-approval letter of proof of funds, the CMA, you're also going to want to review the tax records, right? I do a whole lot of research before I advise my client on what to do. And that's just my style. It's what I do. Every agent doesn't do it. So I'm the one teaching today, so I'm going to tell you how I do it. And then you can do what you want to do or what you think is best for your clients. So I also look at, oh, and then we also mentioned disclosures. Most of the time, the disclosures are under additional information. If they are not there, then you should contact the listing agent and say, I have a client who's interested in the property. Can you please email me or upload the property disclosures so that we can review them? The client should review the disclosures prior to making an offer, because what is stated in the disclosures will affect their offer. If there are things that you didn't see at the property, but that are listed on the disclosure, that could affect how much the property is worth to the buyer or whether or not the buyer even wants to buy it. Okay. So that's another thing you need. You're going to review the tax records, and you're going to review them from not only the treasurer's standpoint, meaning are the taxes paid, are they up to date, and are they reported on the MLS as being the current amount, the correct current amount. You're also going to check on the tax assessor's website. Now, what you're looking for in the tax assessor's website is, was the property recently reassessed and the value increased or decreased? If the value was increased, there's a strong likelihood that on the next second installment tax bill, the property tax is also going to incur an increase. So you want to make sure that your client is aware that if there was a 30% increase in the assessed value, there's a likelihood that those taxes are going to go up roughly 30% as well. So that's going to factor into whether or not they can afford to stay in that home once they buy it. Okay. Because the numbers that affect the monthly payment the most are property taxes and homeowners insurance. If either of those go up or down, it has a bigger impact on the monthly payment than the mortgage does. The reason that is because the mortgage is calculated over 15, 20, 30 years, right? The taxes and the homeowners insurance, while it's a smaller amount, it's calculated over only a 12-month period. So $1,000 increase on a mortgage is pennies on a mortgage payment, but $1,000 increase on property insurance per month is, just because my brain is gone now after fighting with this, is $83 a month. $83 a month could be a make or break number for a client if their debt to income ratio is already stretched. Does that make sense to you guys? Do you understand the difference and why it's important to know that?
Yes. Where could we find the insurance info?
Well, the insurance info, it's going to be, normally they would get the insurance amount from their insurance agent. I was just simply, saying that what affects the mortgage payment the greatest. Okay. So if they, their insurance is going to be dependent on what company they go with, how much they have to insure, not only in the property, the building, but also their personal property. So that's going to fluctuate. It's just, but you need to know, you as a professional need to know that, hey, listen, here's the deal. Because I like to explain to people exactly what they're getting into. You should talk to your insurance agent. Once you're under contract, talk to your insurance agent right away. Find out how much your insurance is going to be for the amount of coverage that you need. Because you need to know what your total monthly payment is going to be. The bank is going to give you your monthly payment based on principal, interest, tax, any mortgage insurance that you have to have. And that's it. So then you have to add your property taxes or HOA. If there's an HOA, you have to add that amount in there as well. That's all part of the buyer's monthly housing expense. So they have to just, you have to know what all the pieces are to monthly housing expense, so that when you're having a conversation with them, you're not letting them forget that, hey, don't forget your homeowner's insurance is a factor monthly too. We don't want to overextend you, because you're in the business of selling homes that people are going to live in. You're not in the business of setting people up for foreclosure. Okay. So, but again, we don't control interest rates. We don't control the cost of insurance. We don't control HOA fees, which also can go up or down. I don't think I've ever seen them go down, but they can definitely go up. And we don't control taxes, but we can see, it's probably one of the few things that we kind of have a little bit of a crystal ball to see forward, right? Because here's another thing with taxes, why you need to look at the assessor's information. Let's say there's a homeowner's exemption and there's a senior exemption and a senior freeze. If you look at the assessor's website for the property, especially Cook County makes it really easy, you can see exactly how much is being deducted from the taxes for the senior and the senior exemption. And if your client is not a senior, and even if they are a senior, but they make more money that they make too much money to get the senior freeze, their taxes on the next full bill for them is going to go up by that amount. That is a major difference. And it has caused a lot of problems for people in the past when they don't know that up front, because they don't save money for it and they're not prepared for it. And when their escrow account shows up short, guess what? The bank comes knocking at the door and says, hey, your escrow account is short. What are you going to do? We either need you to pay all the money now, or we need to spread it out over the next 12 months. And oh, by the way, since you were short, we're going to add to your payment so that you're not short next time. Plus, we need to collect what you owe us. So it's important to be aware of what the taxes are now, and if they've been reassessed, and if there are any exemptions that your buyer will not receive. Okay. If we have time later, maybe I'll hop on a property on the assessor's site and show you where to see that on Cook County, because Cook County is the easiest one to do quickly. All right. So this is research you want to do. You also want to check to see if the property is in a flood zone. Now on Realist has some flood zone information on there, or you can always go to the FEMA website, the FEMA flood map, and you just punch in the address and it shows you a map of where the property is, and you'll be able to easily see whether or not it's in a flood zone. Now, most properties aren't going to be in a flood zone, but some properties will. If they're near any arteries of the Chicago River, right? Lots of properties in Des Plaines, Franklin Park, even Park Ridge. There are some properties that are in flood zones. So it's important to know, because normally the seller will disclose that. But here's the thing. If the seller is unaware that they're in a flood zone because maps have been redrawn, and they don't have a mortgage that requires them to have flood insurance, they may be honest in saying, to their knowledge, no, it's not in a flood zone and doesn't require flood insurance. But if it is in fact in a flood zone, because when you don't have a mortgage, you're not required to carry flood insurance, but when you do have a mortgage and you're in a flood zone, you're required to carry flood insurance. Flood insurance can only be purchased through FEMA now. And it depends on the property, but it can cost anywhere from $1,500 and up per year. Again, that's adding more than $100 a month, like $130 a month to a monthly housing payment. That may make it impossible for the buyer to buy that home because of the debt to income ratio. Okay. Make sure that when you're preparing to write an offer, that you let the listing agent know. Give the listing agent a call. We love to do text and we love to do emails and we love to not talk to people, but this business is still a people business, and you have to talk to people. You can click on the MLS under additional information. You can click contract notification that sends a message to the listing agent that you're going to write a contract. But again, you want to build rapport. Your presentation of an offer began when you made the call or made the connection to schedule an appointment. If you were rude, if you were late for an appointment and somebody was waiting for you, if you were rude in the house, if you left the door unlocked, if you left a window open, water running, lights on, whatever, that's all part of your presentation. Because they will remember that you made an appointment, you showed up late, or you left lights on, or you didn't properly lock the door, or the key was missing after you were there. That's not going to go well for you. So make sure you're being very responsible when you go to a home. I tend to, I was a Girl Scout, so I tend to use the Girl Scout rule. I usually try to leave things better than I found them. I've shown a lot of properties that are vacant and the blinds are all messed up. It looks very ghetto. It looks terrible. Might be in a nice neighborhood and all, but it just looks terrible and it shows terrible. Well, I want my clients to see it in its best light, so I fix them and I leave them fixed. It benefits the next person, but it also shows my client that, yeah, it doesn't look like this. This is just somebody opened it and they didn't care. They left it this way. I'm going to fix it. So, it's little things that you do that are a representation of you and your client, and it's going to show in your offer. There's lots of pieces. You want to build rapport with that other agent. Go ahead, whoever that was.
Yeah, so quick question. I know your compensation or your split would be on the MLS. Would there have to be any other like signed document with the listing agent, or how would that work?
No. Whatever's offered on the MLS is what you're expected to get. So,
Okay.
and no, there's nothing else needed additional for that. If you're working with a for sale by owner, that's different. Then you would have to have an agreement for compensation from the for sale by owner prior to showing the property. There's a document for that. Okay. Make sure that you ask the listing agent when you talk to them, what's important to the seller. Like, is there a certain time frame that they need to close by? Are they going to need a rent back after closing? Do they already have a property to go to? What is their situation, and what would they prefer to see in the contract as far as those sorts of things? You can ask about the activity on the property, like, hey, have you had a lot of showings? What's the turnout been? Do you have any offers, or have you had any offers? Do they have to tell you that? No, but you can still ask, especially regarding offers, unless their seller has directed them to tell you how many offers there are, or if there are any. They don't have to tell you that. They can say, I'm not at liberty to say. Now, that being said, most agents have loose lips and will tell you anything that you want to know if you only ask. So don't be afraid to ask questions. If there's something on the disclosure that you want to know more about, make sure you ask. Like, if they say that if they check off that there's seepage and heavy rains, and then down on the bottom, they forget to put a note, or they do put a note and they say on the north wall of the basement, there's seepage and heavy rains, you can call and ask for more information on that. So I see the note that the seller has indicated on their disclosure that they get seepage on the north wall and heavy rains. What have they done about that? Have they had it waterproofed? Is there a crack there? Did they have it repaired? Does it happen every time it rains, or does it happen once a year when we get like the torrential downpour? Ask more information. How much damage has it caused? Things like that. I'm sorry.
Is that something that I have a quick question on that. Is that something that they have to disclose even if the property is sold as is?
Yes, absolutely. The only time that does not have to be disclosed is if it's an estate sale, somebody who has not lived in the property, or if it's a bank-owned property. Otherwise, it must be disclosed,
Okay.
even if it's sold as is.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Let's see here. Okay, so then when you're getting the buyer ready to make the offer, there's some things that you're going to talk to them about, right? Price and terms. So what price, based upon the CMA, what price do they want to start at? I always tell them, okay, we have a starting point and we have a drop dead point. So I want you to have two numbers in your mind. You don't have to tell me your drop dead point right now, but I want to know where you want to start. And I want you to think about what your drop dead point is. Like, this is the most I'm willing to pay for this house. And if I get it, great, I'll be satisfied. And if I don't get it, oh, well, it is what it is. That's the most I was willing to pay. And you're not going to feel bad either way. So have that conversation with them after you go over the CMA with them. Also review the seller's disclosures and any answers to questions you may have asked on their behalf after reviewing them. Talk to them about what is being conveyed with the property. So is there a shed? Are the kitchen appliances there? Is the washer and dryer staying? Is the chandelier leaving? You know, whatever the listing says or whatever you've seen at the property, I always assume whatever I see there is staying there unless the listing says not. And I don't mean personal property, but I assume that the appliances are staying. Obviously the furnace, central air, things like that, that stuff is staying. If there's a shed, I may ask, is the shed staying or going? If there's a generator, is the generator staying or going? If it's not specifically outlined. So something unusual, if you're not sure, if there's a play set in the yard and your client would love to have it because they have little kids, ask, is the play set staying or going? If you don't want the pool, make sure that you write in the contract, seller will remove pool and bring dirt to level. Okay? So talk to the seller, talk to the buyer, talk to the seller's agent, like what did we see there that's not staying? And talk to the buyer about what did you see there that you'd like to stay or you'd like to go. Earnest money, we've already talked about. Time for seller acceptance. We don't have it in our contracts anymore where there's a deadline for the seller to respond to the offer. So you can give a deadline in your email message when you send the offer if you want, or you can write it in on the contract. We don't typically see that. If the seller's taking too long, the buyer can always withdraw. Buyer approval letter we talked about, closing date, make sure that the closing date will work for your buyer. So a lot of agents will write it for the 15th or the 30th of the month. So the middle or the last of the month, always on a Friday. That's the most hectic day ever for attorneys and title companies because of that. So I've started writing my closings for like middle of the week and not the middle or the end of the month. So like the first or the third week of the month and in the middle of the week, you know, Tuesday through Thursday. That's what I've done because it's less hectic. It's less hectic for the sellers. It's less hectic for the title companies. If the seller has to move, meaning they need to have the moving company there literally the morning of closing, loading up, it's better to have a weekday scenario for them to work with. And it also gives them that day, that chance to move out. And then the buyer also a chance to kind of, you know, get ready to move in. A lot of times buyers will take, if they can, they'll, like if you close on a Thursday, a lot of times buyers will take off work Thursday and Friday. That gives them a long weekend to prepare the house or move or whatever. So it actually works out better, I think, for everybody. But agents over time have just gotten accustomed to writing offers on the middle and the end of the month. Home warranty. If the home warranty is offered, make sure you understand which warranty is being offered, what it includes. Present that to your buyer. If a home warranty is not being offered, but your client is nervous about the age of appliances and such, you can say, you know what, why don't we ask for a home warranty and see if the seller would be willing to provide that since those appliances are older. To just give you that peace of mind for the first year that you're there. There's many, many warranty companies, many different offerings at different prices. So that's something you could, you know, be looking into. I think we've got a bunch of different company flyers in the tech room in those black bins up in the cabinets. I think there's one that's labeled home warranties. Look in there, grab a couple flyers and start reviewing them so that you can read the fine print and see what's covered and what's not. Also, when you're explaining a contract to the buyer, please make sure that you read the contract regarding the inspection and repair limits, because there are more limits now. There are more limits now to what you're doing, what you can and can't do with regard to the inspection issues. It states very clearly in the contract that the inspection is for major components of the home. Okay, the roof, the walls, windows, furnace, hot water tank, things like that. Excuse me. And it also states that an item is deemed to be acceptable if it's in working order and not causing a hazard to health or safety, regardless of age. So if you're showing a property and you can tell that the furnace looks older, I mean, you don't really know unless you open it and look at the date or the serial number or whatever. But if it looks old, or if they even say it's old, you can say, this furnace looks kind of old, but it's working. And so you can make your offer, based upon the fact that that this is older and it may not last a long time. And I'm going to tell you this right now, that unless the inspector comes back and says it's emitting carbon monoxide, it's got a gas leak, or it's dangerous in some way, the seller does not have to repair or replace it. Let's put that out there right now. It's not an inspection issue. It looks old. I'm telling you, it looks old. So when the inspector says, oh, it's old, I don't want to hear you go, oh my gosh, the furnace is old. I'm telling you it's old. Now, if he says that it's emitting carbon monoxide, now we have a problem. Now it's an inspection issue. Same thing with the roof. You can't always see the roof from the ground, or you're not a roofing professional. You can't tell how old the roof is. Now the inspector goes up there and says, well, the roof is old. You might only get a couple more years out of it. But if you can see that it's old from the ground, you say, look, the roof is old. And even if you can't, if the roof is old, it doesn't matter, as long as it's performing the function for which it's intended. Now, if the roof is old and there's mold in the attic and you can tell there's an active leak and pieces are missing, now you have an inspection issue. Okay, does that make sense to everybody? What the difference is between old and issues and inspection issues?
Sally, I have a question.
Sure.
How do you handle the fact that there's so much snow on the roofs right now and preparing your clients to expect the unexpected and it might not melt before we have an inspection?
Well, there's a couple ways you could do it. You could have the inspector come back after the snow melts. You can ask the seller to do a roof certification after the snow melts, or an affidavit. Usually, if there's a major problem with the roof, the inspector can tell from inside the attic. But those are options too. You can have that portion held open, that portion of the inspection held open until the snow and ice are melted. Assuming it's not today and you're agreeing on a contract today and you're closing at the end of the week, because the snow won't be gone. Okay. But usually during the time period that you're under contract is a minimum of 30 days, usually 30 to 60 days. At some point during that time, the snow is going to be gone. But you do need to leave that door open or that window open to be able to have an inspection or have the seller do a roof certification by a professional roofer. That costs about, depending on the roof, that costs about $250 to get a roof certification. $250, let's say $250 to $400, depending on the property, how high the roof is, how big it is, etc. Did that answer the question?
Excellent advice. Yeah, I wish I knew that 20 years ago when I bought my house.
Oh, you bought it in the snow?
I bought it in the snow and we closed, and then the snow melted and I realized that my roof was leaking in a spot that the inspector couldn't get into, and that the backyard didn't have any grass. It was all mud.
Oh yeah, that's a bummer. Yeah, what are
I
you gonna
learned.
do?
I now know.
Well, you bought before you were in real estate.
Exactly.
Yeah, I bought before I was in real estate too, and I had to replace the sewer line under my house. That was fun.
Wow.
Yeah, nowadays people drop cameras down into the sewer. They have a plumber come, and if they're concerned about the sewer, they have them drop a camera down in there to make sure it's okay as part of the inspection too. That's another inspection you can have. So, and we'll talk about that when we get to that part, what inspections you can have. So are there any special clauses or contingencies that you have to write in the contract? So this is all stuff you're like jotting down notes, collecting information before you even write the offer. So any special clauses might be that if there is any special inspections you want to have, you can, normally there is the home inspection and a lot of people today are doing radon inspections. You can also do lead-based paint inspections if that's a concern on an older home. And you can do plumbing inspections and actual separate roofing inspections, you know, whatever inspections the buyer feels they need to be comfortable and confident in buying the home. Also, you want to make sure that you know, again, what closing date works for your client, and if there's a requirement on the seller's part for the closing date, you have that, and if there's a rent back. The last thing is a cover letter. A lot of times agents will have their buyers write a cover letter to submit with their offer, and that is most effective. It's not effective at all if you're doing a bank-owned property purchase. It's most effective if you're buying a home from somebody who's been there a long time and raised their family there, and your client's a first-time buyer who's, you know, going to be doing the same. You know, you tug at those heartstrings. Believe it or not, sometimes you can actually win a bid with the cover letter, even if you're not the highest bidder. So use good judgment on when it makes sense to have your buyer write a cover letter or not. If your buyer's an investor, it doesn't matter. If the seller's an investor, it doesn't matter as much. So knowing the situation will help you decide what makes the most sense. Okay. So this is the process, right? The buyer. So after you've collected all that information, you have all the terms and conditions you're going to write in the contract. You write up the contract. The buyer makes an offer. The seller is going to respond in one of three ways. They're going to counter, accept, or reject the offer. If the offer is accepted, that's easy. You begin going to your contract to close process. If there's a counter offer, the buyer has the same three options. They can counter, accept, or reject. Okay. If the seller rejects the offer, this is a good one. Don't assume that no means no, because it doesn't. No never means no in this business, to be honest with you. So it just means that you're not close enough, or you're not seeing eye to eye on an issue. Okay. So it just means that that's when you do your work. Okay. That's when you're earning your money, when you're trying to negotiate. Negotiating is my favorite part of the whole process. And I find that the best number where you settle, the best place is usually when it's a win-win situation. And a win-win situation means that typically the seller is getting a little less than what they really wanted, and the buyer's paying a little bit more than they really wanted. But that's kind of the sweet spot in almost every transaction, in my opinion. So, and keeping everybody calm, that's a big part of your job too. You have to stay calm and not let your emotions get riled up, even if the other agent is. It's your job to stay calm and try to keep everybody else calm. And when somebody else is not being calm, you need to say, that's not going to serve us well, you know, acting like that. Let's just talk this out, you know. That's your job. So preparing the offer checklist. Oh, there's my checklist to prepare. There's what I was just reading off of too. All right, now we're gonna create an offer in Command. Let me just zoom ahead a minute, because I want to try to get to all that stuff. Offer writing guidelines, client's name, property. Okay. Before we do that, I'm going to zoom ahead here, because I want to try to do that all in one fell swoop and not have to keep bouncing back. Okay. So we're going to create an offer in Command, and these are the offer writing guidelines. And a lot of this is what we've probably already talked about. So it's makes a lot of sense, right? To know that you need to know the parties. So that's the cover letter. You need to know the parties before you start writing. So part of that is, you know that there's a section on the contract where it asks for your client's information and your office information. And then on the other side of the contract, it asks for the seller's information. Now, you're writing an offer for the buyer, so you might say, well, I don't know any of their information. Not true. If you have the property disclosures, you have the seller's name. If you looked up the tax records, you even have their address if they don't live in the property. And you know the listing agent's name, and all you have to do is click on it, and voila, you get their address, their office address, everything. So when I have a listing and buyer's agents present me with offers, and particularly if there are multiple offers, if I get an offer that doesn't have the buyer's information in it, or doesn't have any of the seller side information filled in at all, not even my information, what does that tell me? That tells me that the buyer's agent does not have attention to detail. So what does that make me think about how my transaction is going to be with that buyer's agent? Anybody? John, I see one. Yeah.
Is it just the whole transaction? Is it just going to be a hassle getting through it?
Yeah, you're going to have to pull their weight, right? Because they don't have attention to detail. That means you're going to have even more attention to detail and make sure nothing slips through the cracks. Sometimes it's just laziness, but even that, I don't want that either, right? So now, am I going to completely reject an offer because of that? No. But is it going to leave, an impression on me? Yes. When I get an offer, and even when other agents get my offers, when I get an offer that is properly completed, no blanks, all the information that's available and at hand is completed on page 13, I compliment the agent. Thank you for writing such a complete and neat and nice offer. Whether they're going to be the winning bidder or not, I compliment them on that because I appreciate that. And people do this, and other agents do the same for me, And sometimes I'll even get you had such a nicely written offer. It was so complete. I really wish we could do a deal together. Unfortunately, my client selected another offer, but please, let's do something together in the future. Okay, you lose, but it's still, you get that, hey, okay, I'm doing the right thing. Am I professional? I'm being a professional. So it's important, and you never know, because that deal, even if your offer doesn't get accepted, that deal may fall and you may get another chance at it. So you always want to be leaving a good impression. Okay. All right. Presenting the offer. All right. We got to go back here since presenting the offer is next. So I'll go back here to writing the offer. Oh, what is this? Buyer objections? Hang on. Has anybody gotten any objections from buyers before making an offer? Or yeah, obstacles during writing offers. Has anybody had any objections, practiced any objections, are afraid of getting any objections from the buyer when it comes time to writing an offer? In your book, let's see if it's in your book. Should be in your book. In your book on page, interesting. They don't have the objections in your book. On page 12, it says to role play the buyer offer objections. But I don't see them in there. Nicole, do you have time? Okay, she must have stepped away. Mariella, are you on?
Wait, yes, I'm on.
Do you have a second? Do you have a second?
Yes, of course.
Okay, so there's buyer objections. Can you, you probably can't handle buyer objections, can you?
Well, I just got my license in August.
I know.
But honestly, I could try.
But you have shown properties. So have you had or have you heard other agents in the office have any objections when it comes to making bids for buyers, offers for buyers? Can you think of any? Like, for example, if a buyer wants to make a low offer, you've presented the CMA and you've told them what the value of the property is, but they still want to make a low offer. What do you think you should say?
What do I think I should say? I
Yeah.
should say, well,
Use your nice words.
yes. No, I'm trying to think. Well, based off the numbers, so I'm the agent, right?
Correct.
I'm still trying. Okay.
Yeah.
So based on the numbers from the CMA, we could put in this offer, but if it gets rejected right away, then you lost the chance of like negotiating with the sellers.
That's true. That's true. And that would be a good response. And they're going to say, well, why would I lose the chance? Right?
Because if the seller looks at this offer, then it honestly would seem like you're trying to insult them because it's pretty low based upon the numbers coming back from.
That's good. That's actually really good, Marielle. And that's true, because the seller could get insulted right now. We always say this is not a touchy-feely thing. This is supposed to be business, but let's get real. Sellers, especially if they've lived in the home a long time, they do have some emotions tied to it, and they have emotions tied to the financial gain that they're going to get, or the financial punishment if they're selling close to where they're going to have to bring money to the table, or they're not really going to walk away with a lot of money, whatever the case may be. It's very hard as a human being to detach your emotions from the business aspect. So that's 100% right. You can say, based upon the comps, we can make this offer. It's not likely that the seller is going to accept it, but who knows? Crazy things happened in this business, but here's the risk, right? The seller could be so insulted that they say no and don't even bother writing another one because we won't consider it.
Yeah.
Okay. So you can also say, well, make that's actually probably all I really don't. You can tell them, especially if there's multiple offers. Here's the thing: if there's multiple offers, you can say, if you really want this home and are concerned that another buyer may purchase it, you can make a full price offer and give the seller what they want, because that's the only way you're going to get this house. Like, if this is the house for them, they have to understand that, and there's other bids, they have to understand that the likelihood is very high that they won't get it. And here's the thing, sometimes the other terms and conditions matter too. Like, let's say they're coming in with a lowball offer and they want a buyer's credit to pay for their closing costs. I mean, that's like a double whammy. If the buyer needs buyer's credit to help pay for their closing costs, like they have the down payment money, but they don't have the closing costs, you need to tell them, look, we can ask for the 3% back, but that means we can't also come in with a lower offer. We have to come in close to or at their asking price and ask for the 3% back, because that's what they're really selling the home for. They're not selling the home for, the full price. They're selling it for the full price minus what they're giving back to you. So sometimes you have to wrap their head around that too. Or they might be a 3.5% down FHA offer and they want to, write a lower offer. Everything has bearing, right? Like, if you're a cash buyer, you may have the opportunity to have more flexibility in price. Cash buyer can close fast, close 2 weeks. That's great. Now, if you're a cash buyer and you can close within 2 weeks, but you're $50,000 under asking, that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be the winner, because a full price or close to full price offer with 20% down is as good as gold too, except for you have to have an appraisal and you have to have an inspection. And the cash buyer can still have an inspection and an appraisal too. They typically don't have an appraisal, but they'll do an inspection. So everything matters. Like, you have to assess every situation when you're making an offer for a buyer. You have to assess every situation individually for its own merits. Okay. Another one will be if the buyer says, well, I want the home and I want to make an offer, but I want the buyer to repair this, this, and that, because they saw that there were some damages before, when you showed them the property. That's fine too. Write it in the contract. Say the offer is contingent. You can have an addendum to the contract that says the offer is contingent upon the seller making XYZ repairs. Now, does that mean that you can't have an inspection and ask for more repairs? No. Also, John, I think you mentioned as-is offers earlier, and even when a listing is listed as is, you can still have an inspection. Always have you can always have an inspection. Now, after the inspection, because the property was offered as is, they say they will not negotiate or give credits or make repairs after inspection. And sometimes that's true. Sometimes that is what's going to happen. They won't. They'll reject anything you request. Sometimes though, they will say that, but when push comes to shove and they've gotten that far into a transaction, and if they like you and they like your buyer, and things are otherwise going smoothly, they might say, well, you know what, we'd hate to have you walk away. We've come this far. What can we do to remedy? Okay. So sometimes that happens. Now you can't bank on that because they don't have to, but sometimes it does happen that way. Like, let's just say sometimes it's sold as is and you had an inspection and discovered that something was wrong with the furnace and the hot water tank or something like that. And the buyer says, or maybe there was a number of things wrong, and just more smaller nuisance items. And the buyer says, you know what? I know it was offered as is. I'm not going to ask you for anything. I'm just going to cancel the contract. The seller may come back and say, whoa, wait a minute. Let's talk about what it is. Can we give you a credit? So sometimes things happen. So always have an open mind and don't consider the door shut until it's actually shut, which sometimes takes a few conversations before you realize that you can't come to a resolution. All right. I'm going to go now, I guess, here to command. And I'm going to stop sharing this one. Hello. I'm going to share a different one. Where is it? This one. Okay. Everybody sees my Connect MLS now?
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks. All right. Let me go to command dashboard. So when you start working with a client, okay, the first thing you do is put them in opportunities, right? The minute you get a lead or a client that you're working with, as soon as you do, the first thing you do is you put them in command. Correct? Is that what everybody's doing? Yes,
Yeah,
no?
we need to fill out the contact information first.
Great.
Right?
Okay, so let's go to let me go to contacts. Actually, yeah. Okay. So if I go to me, so we'll assume I just got this contract. I put them, this client, I just put them all in and everything. Now, the first place to also, once you get someone you're working with, buyer, potential seller, prospect, a lead, you're going to go into opportunities. This is hard for me to see. Okay. You're going to go into opportunities and then, there we go. Add an opportunity, create an opportunity. And then you're going to say, okay, this is a buyer opportunity. Sally's the client. Opportunity name is Sally Haynes buyer. And you're going to put in here the estimated closing date. So let's say, okay, this client wants to
Can I
close.
ask you a question?
Yes.
What are the custom tags? When do we put that? information?
Oh, in here, I don't know why in here it doesn't really show, like there's a custom tags thing and it just shows me this imported from .loop nonsense. But when I actually enter the client, that's when I put my custom, let me cancel this. When I actually enter the client, this is where I would put my tags. I would go into edit and then I would choose my tags in here. Lead source, where is it? Tags. See, so down here, my actual tags will show up when I'm in the contact editing part, not in the opportunities part. I don't know why it's not working properly in the opportunities part and for this stage, you know, whatever. But like, let's say here, you make your custom tags in a different section to show up here. And like, let's say I was gonna put this client in the DTD2 calling group, which is HMB, then I would click that and then it would add that tag to the client.
Okay,
But
so and the other thing, do we need to add to the sales pipeline before we create opportunity?
yes,
So
you have to add to opportunities before you can create the contract.
okay.
So that's what, so here's your client, you go to opportunities, you go to create opportunity. It's got the client's information there.
Because I'm making mistakes somewhere here and then it's not coming up like in a nice way when I'm in the offer. You know, all the information should go in the offer, right?
It
When we put-
doesn't. No, it doesn't.
No?
No, we have to, even if we put them in here, it doesn't transfer to the offer section. Don't ask me why. That's still a missing
Okay.
peg. You still
So I
have to
thought-
enter it.
Okay. What
So
about
you-
the address of the property? Would it come?
So yeah, so let me walk through this and then we'll go through that.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
let's just say the estimated closing date is going to be, oh, just for grins, let's make it April 1st, April Fool's Day. Okay, estimated, nope. Oh, I forgot to change it to buyer, right? So it's a buyer lead. That makes a difference.
Yeah, that makes a difference.
Make sure that you're choosing that it's a buyer opportunity, okay? Because it makes a difference on everything. Estimated closing date, okay. Time frame, obviously within 3 months. Budget, let's say the budget is 450,000. And the commission rate, we're going to assume an average, the average 2.5. What stage are you in with this buyer? Are you cultivating them? Do you already have an appointment scheduled? Are they actively looking? Where are you? If you just got the lead and you're cultivating it and they're not pre-approved, they're not ready to start looking, that's when you're cultivating. When you've made an appointment, that first buyer consultation, that's your appointment. If you've made that, great. If they're active, that means you've already passed these two and you're actively showing them properties. Okay. Opportunity stage, where are they? Are they searching? Are you showing? Are you negotiating? Are you in legacy? Means that it just came over from a long time ago. So only because I'm going to say right now, because I didn't enter this client in the searching or showing stage. Let's say I did. Well, now I'm already at the negotiation stage. So I wanted to show up in the right place on my opportunity timeline. So I'm going to select negotiations because right now we're going to write a contract, which means we're going to be in negotiation. We're going to write an offer. And this is just because I have a team, so it's assigned to me. You might not see this if you're not on a team, if you're not the rainmaker of a team. Okay, so now my opportunity is there, right? So now let's just say I had the client in there and we've looked at houses. Now I'm ready to write an offer. So I'm going to go to my opportunity. I'm going to go to my opportunities, maybe. Oh, I'm working on a screen that I'm not used to working on. Sorry. So opportunities. Now it was a buyer opportunity. So I'm going to go down to my buyer opportunities and I already put them in not under contract. But you'll see what's going to happen if that opens. No? Active. Okay. So here we go. here I am over here. Remember I put it in negotiations? If I just came in, if I was showing, it would be here, right? And then now I'm like, oh, we're gonna be in negotiations, so I'm gonna move them over there. I'm gonna click on it. And now I'm gonna get ready to write the offer. Now, here's something that I realized, and it saves my life. Don't put the property information here yet. Don't put the property information here until you have an accepted contract, because this is the property information that'll be on your file when you submit it to the office. And you don't have to, you might be like, especially if I work for an investor, I write many offers before we get one. Okay, so I don't want to have to keep changing that. It's just redundant work for me. I'm not going to even bother. So right from here, I go to documents right away. And when I get to documents, I'm going to click on start a transaction and then DocuSign, because that's what I'm using for my contracts. Then I have to log in. Oh God, I hope I remember my login. Does this not remember? Oh, good. That's the problem with having everything saved. And then it's going to make me, okay, so now I'm in the DocuSign room, right? Have any of you been in here before to write offers? Shalene,
Yeah,
I know you have, Shaheen,
Yeah.
yeah, because you've written offers. But if you know, the rest of you who are new, if you've not written offers before, set yourself up in here as a client, as a buyer and a seller, and go through the process. Don't wait until you have somebody you want to write an offer or a listing for, and then be scrambling and practicing on them. Practice on yourself. Practice on, I don't know, your parents, your friend, whatever. You know, put people in there and practice. Don't let the client be the guinea pig. All right, so now I'm in documents, and I'm going to add from DocuSign the forms library. Yep. And I'm a member of CAR, so that's what I'm going to select. If you're a member of MORE, that's what's going to show up for you here. So I'll click on CAR. I'm going to do the 7.1. 7.1, what is it now? What's the contract now? 7.0?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to select the multi-board contract. Add. Okay, now remember I asked the listing agent for the disclosures, right? So I'm going to add from my computer. I'm going to just find some disclosures on something maybe. We might have some disclosures. Let me go here. They're not going to match anything I do, but that's all right. I'm just going to grab them. So you can see how easy it is to add a PDF from your computer. Now, another document that you don't want to forget is, and I have it on my computer, is the business arrangement disclosure. So that is required on every file. So we don't want to forget that one. Affiliated business arrangement. Okay, that's required by our office. Now, before I start to fill in any of these forms, I'm going to start over here all the way to the left with details. So now this is where you have to put in the information for the contract that will automatically fill in the contract. So you're going to click edit. Local currency is US, not under contract. Let's say the MLS number is whatever it is. Origin of the lead, where did you get the lead? Company room status is going to be offer made because that's what we're doing right now. The address of the property. You know what, if you don't put a correct, I just remembered, if you don't put an actual real address in here, I think it tells you that the address doesn't exist. Now, the property type, residential. So this information you could get from the listing sheet, right? Now, a lot of this doesn't go on the contract or whatever, and you don't have to fill in all of it because some of it doesn't transfer onto our contracts anyway. So just save yourself the time and headache. So the offer date is going to be today. Contract amount is going to be $450. Earnest money amount, I'm going to put 1,000 in there because that's what I do for the initial, and then I'm on the contract, I'll add in the additional. Local contract amount, I don't know why we have this. I think it has to do with the system and how it provides information to Kelly. So I'm just going to fill it in again. It's redundant, but it's I think it's for that system. Contract date. Now, I don't know the contract date yet, right? The contract date comes when the seller accepts the offer. Yeah, and see, like all of this stuff, it doesn't go on our contract. So right now I don't have to put it in. Expected closing date, April 1st. See, it automatically filled that in from what I entered in the opportunity phase. Financing type. What type of financing is this buyer using? We're going to say conventional. And this high bid, I don't do any of this at this point. None of this. Okay. Now over here, I'm going to enter the seller's name. I don't know their phone number. I know their name because it was on the disclosures, right? I don't know their phone numbers or email addresses or anything like that. If I have their address from the tax records, I'll enter it here. If I don't, then I'm just going to enter the address of the property that I'm selling, and they can correct it for me later. Okay, does that make sense?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
What about the email address?
I don't have the seller, so I don't know the email address or the phone number, but I know their name because I have it on the disclosure.
Oh, this
and
is seller's information. Okay.
Right, and I know their address because actually that wouldn't be their address because that would be, yeah, that would be the address. Yeah. Getting myself confused here. And then this is my granddaughter. Why is my granddaughter in there? If there was a second seller, I would put their name and information here as well. We're just going to assume there's one. Now, the listing agent. I know the listing agent's information, right?
Yeah.
Because it was on the listing sheet.
Right.
So that's what I'm going to put in here. Let's say it's you, Shaheen.
Yeah.
And
I was making mistake here. I was not going into details. I was doing, you know, the one previous one. I used to put all the information on the property address. And then I think I made a lot of mistake there. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but that's how I learned here. I made a lot of mistakes in here too. And then this is that's how you figure it out. And the more you go in here and play around and make the mistakes and figure it out, the faster you're going to be at writing the offer later when you have a client and you're under the gun to do it.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I'm drawing a blank on how to spell your last name, Shaheen.
LALIWALA.
Okay, thank you. So I wouldn't have your home phone number, but I might have your cell phone number. So I would put that in your office phone. I would easily have because it's on the MLS, no problem. I would have your cell phone number probably from the MLS as well. 685-8300. And then your email is
SM.
I'm sorry.
SM.
SM.
And my last name LALIWALA at Yahoo.
Our company is Keller Williams. And then if there's a second listing agent, they would go there. Then I have the buyer, buyer's cell phone, buyer's email address, buyer's address. I don't know. No. It's horrible when you can't think of addresses. Like you go blank.
Do we have to put buyer's address here?
Okay, so a lot of agents don't put their buyer's information in there, but first of all, what's the secret?
I don't know. I don't know.
What's the secret? And their attorney needs to know their contact information.
So we can tell them later on in an email separately, something like that.
Again, what's the secret? I
don't know. I
mean,
no
anybody
idea.
who wants to know who your buyer is, all they need is their name. They'll Google them. They'll find out more about them than you know. So I put my buyer's information in there.
Okay.
I
do too, but I don't know.
A lot of agents don't, and I don't understand it. I don't understand, what the secrecy is about. But it's crazy to me. I mean, I even have their email addresses in there automatically. Sometimes I might not, so sometimes I put the phone number, sometimes I don't.
Okay,
But
Sally, I have a question here.
The email's address is always in there because otherwise it can't email if you take the email address out, it can't email the contract.
Yeah, Sally, I have a question here. When we put all the information in the contact, so this won't go automatically here, buyer's information?
It will go automatically. It will. That's why I'm putting it here, so that it will. Hang on.
No, that is not the question. Maybe I am confused, I think. When we put all the information in the contact, in the first screen.
No, in the contact, it will not go here.
Okay.
It's a pain in the butt. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know if it ever will, if it's just a piece between Command and DocuSign, because remember DocuSign's a third-party software. So if it just is not able to pull from there, or what the situation is, but it does not. You have to put it in.
Okay, I got it.
So that's one. And then you always have to remember, don't forget to click save down here, because everything I just typed in, if I don't click save, will be gone. But yeah, it doesn't. So if you were to, when you enter the buyer's contact information in Command and you go to make an offer or do a listing agreement or anything like that, it does not transfer over to DocuSign. You have to enter it again. Yes, it's redundant. Yes, they know it works that way. I don't know if it will ever change or not, but it is what it is.
Okay.
So then now we did the details, the documents we know are in there, the people, okay. So let's go to documents again. Now, when I click on the affiliated business arrangement, it's not going to automatically fill in any information because it doesn't have any fields in there yet. It doesn't know what to fill in. The same thing on the property disclosure, because those are documents that are PDFs that I uploaded from the contract. I mean, from my computer, sorry. Now, if I click on the contract, the information, most of the information that I just entered should transfer over to this document.
Mhm,
And then there'll be more information that I have to enter.
mhm.
So let's see what it does. All right. So it has the buyer, it has the seller. So there are things I still have to fill in, right?
Yeah.
So I want to fill in what is the property, the size of the property. So let's say it's 30 by 125. Okay, I'm making sure the address is correct. I'm going to put the property ID in there. Where am I going to get the property ID?
Listing.
The listing,
Yeah.
correct.
You can copy and paste too, right?
You
From
can
the-
copy and paste, yeah. If I
All
had
the-
that listing open, I could copy from there and paste it right here. That's a big time saver.
Yeah, yeah.
Also too, like, so let's go to a listing. Let's just, I don't know, pick a listing. Here, let's pick this one, just cause. Okay, so if I was on a listing, right? I could copy and paste the MLS ID. I can copy and paste the tax number right here. Well, not like that though. So I could copy and paste that as well. And I can also, this is where I was telling you. So you see the listing agent's information here, right? There's his name, there's his MLS ID, there's his company name, there's his company's MLS ID, there's his email address.
Mhm.
So there's no reason for you not to put that information on the listing,
Right.
on the offer.
Yeah.
If you click his name, there's his address and everything else. There is no excuse for you not to put that information on the contract. Okay?
Mhm.
That's how you're going to get it. Now, going back to this. So then you're going to fill in everything else. Now, because this isn't a townhouse or a condo or something where there's parking spaces or deeded parking or anything, all of this should say NA. Whoopsie. All of this should say NA, not applicable, no blanks. People don't like to sign, people should not be asked to sign contracts that have blanks in them, that have nothing at all. Some people say you could put dashes in there. It's not recommended, but you can. I prefer NA. It's very clear that that does not apply. So if the refrigerator is staying, you're going to put a check there. Guess what? If there's 2 refrigerators, one in the kitchen and one in the basement or one in the garage, you can put a 2 in that box.
Mhm.
Okay? Stove, microwave, dishwasher, garbage disposal. You get the idea here? Washer, dryer, existing storms and existing storms and screens. There's a sump pump, central air. Maybe it has a humidifier on the furnace. Oh, better have a hot water heater, right? Ceiling fans. If there's ceiling fans and you happen to remember how many there are, put them in there.
And there are pictures to see too.
There are pictures. Yep, exactly. You can look back at the listing pictures to see.
Because sometimes you don't remember, how many.
That's right. That's right. Light fixtures as they exist, any built-in or attached shelving. If the window treatments, you want them to stay. Wall-mounted brackets, security system, blah, 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 fireplace. Okay, what's over here? Fireplace gas logs, smoke detectors you always want, carbon monoxide detectors you want, garage door openers. I'm going to assume there's 2. Transmitter, If it's a 2-car garage with 2 separate doors, there might be 2 transmitter, or there might be, I'm sorry, garage door openers might be only 1 if it's 1 door. If there's 2 separate doors, there would be 2. And for every garage door opener there should be 2 transmitters. So in this case, I would expect that there would be 4 transmitters. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Okay. Outdoor shed, if there is one, play set, planted vegetation, landscaping. If there's anything else included at no additional value, you can add it down here. I will tell you that lenders don't like to see anything added down there. So if you're doing it, sometimes what I do is I put it in there now. Like, let's just say there's a generator. There's a generator. There's a pool table that my client wants to stay, whatever. Now, I'll put it in here. And if there's any negotiations that go on, I might say, you know what? We'll do a separate addendum for that because the lender's not going to want to see that. Or we'll do that as part of the attorney modification. We'll make sure the attorneys add that in. Later, I'm going to take it off the contract now because our lender said they don't want to see it. The lender doesn't want to see it because you can't place a dollar value on those items. And even though the contract says at no added value, the lenders lose their mind whenever we have any weird stuff on there. Okay. Items not included. Like, let's say they say, well, the dining room chandelier is an heirloom and we're taking that with us. Well, as a listing agent, I would have said, take it out before we start showing the house. But that doesn't happen. Okay, but that's where you would put it. Now, seller warrants to buyer that all fixtures, systems, and personal property are in operating condition. Will be in operating condition at possession, except. Hopefully nothing goes here. If they tell you the dishwasher isn't working and it's not going to be working when you close, then guess what? You're going to write in there, the dishwasher doesn't work. Okay? If they've told you that. Now, there's our price. Credit at closing. This is where you would put an amount if your buyer was looking for a credit. If they're not, make sure you put NA. There's our initial earnest money within 2 days of acceptance, 2 business days. And then I'm going to say that they will increase the earnest money, or they will give an additional amount of earnest money of $4,000. The system doesn't like the commas. $4,000 by 2 business days after AI. Oops, AI. So that means that 2 business days after the attorney review and inspection closes, we'll give them another $4,000. Instead of putting a date in there, because I don't know what date that's going to be.
Mhm.
Everybody with me so far?
Yes.
Okay. Now, closing date.
Seller's brokerage, buyer's brokerage.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. So who's going to hold the earnest money? We're going to say the seller's brokerage. If it says seller's on the listing sheet, if it says that the listing office does not hold earnest money, you're going to click. If they've asked you to hold it, you're going to click buyer's brokerage. If you don't know who's holding it, then you're going to click as otherwise agreed by the parties.
Okay.
Okay. The closing date. See, now remember I put the closing date in the details, but it didn't transfer over here.
Yeah.
So we're going to add the closing date here. Possession is going to assume to be at closing. Now, let's see here. The loan contingency. So I'm getting a loan. I said it was a conventional loan. It's not other. So we're going to do NA here. A conventional loan for 80% of the purchase price. Does everybody know what the difference is between 80% of purchase price and 80% of loan to value?
Loan to value.
Because some agents will put loan to value.
What is loan to value?
So loan to value, loan to value means 80%, the loan will be 80% of the value. The value is what comes in on the appraisal. So
Oh,
you should never put 80% loan to value
mm,
on the contract, because who knows what the appraisal is going to come in at. It
right.
could come in short, it could come in over. If it comes in short, that could easily wipe this contract out.
Mhm.
So it's 80% of purchase
Purchase
value.
price.
Never put LTV in there or anything like that.
Mhm.
Interest rate. So I don't even know what the current interest rate is. Was it 2.75 or something?
2.75.
So you don't want to put that amount in there, only because interest rates are volatile.
So you
You
put the
might,
maximum?
you put whatever your client is comfortable with, but you always want to go above it. Like I would put probably 3.5. Now, remember, what you're putting in here isn't what the terms of the loan are going to be.
Right.
What it's saying is that this is the furthest my client is willing to stretch in order to buy this home. And if the interest rate goes above 3.5, I can get out.
Mhm.
Now, if the interest rate goes above 3.5 and the buyer says, oh, well, it is what it is, I can still qualify, I'm still going to buy the house, that's on them. But they don't have to. Okay?
Yes.
The same thing with the 30 years. If your client wants to get a 15-year mortgage, you can put 15 in there. The seller may want to see it as a 30, and the reason is it's easier to qualify for a 30-year loan than a 15-year loan,
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
So again, this is not the terms of the mortgage. This is just saying, well, if the buyer has to do a 30-year loan, they will. Most buyers do a 30-year loan. Some want a 15 though.
Yes.
Okay. The same thing on the point. Well, points, I always put 0 because nobody should be paying points today. That's just my opinion. Now, sometimes on a FHA or a VA or even some others, they do charge points, but I still always put 0 in there. And then they have to negotiate whatever their terms are with their lender. But if they don't like it, if the lender says you have to pay points and they don't want to, that they can just say, you know what, my lender wants points, I'm not paying them, I'm just gonna not buy a house. Okay, moving on. Nothing here. These initial sections we will take care of in the next step. Right now we're just filling in blanks. So my client has received the residential real property disclosure, the EPA pamphlet, the lead paint disclosure, the radon guidelines, and the radon disclosure. Now, if you got the disclosures from the listing agent, you're going to click has. Where does the client get the EPA pamphlet and the radon testing guidelines?
Yeah. From the website, we just go there and give both the links to them in an email, separate email.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's your responsibility as the buyer's agent to get them those documents, whether it be by a link or a PDF attachment in an email. Okay. Something that you can prove that you gave it to them. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
General real estate taxes. Again, you've checked the tax records and you saw that the property is going to go, the property value went up 30%. So are you going to ask for 105% in tax prorations?
Yes.
No.
No? 110?
If the taxes are possibly going to go up 30%, you're going to ask for 130%.
Oh, 30. Okay.
Yep. And if they say, why are you asking for a ridiculous amount in a tax proration? You're going to say, because the assessed value went up 30%. So it's very likely the taxes are going up that much as well. Now, some agents will leave this as to be determined and let the attorneys hash it out.
Okay.
Okay. If the property value has gone down or hasn't gone up, you can do 105 or 110%.
Okay. Usually I put 110.
You usually put 110, yeah. Some communities they'll tell you, yeah, we don't do that here. DuPage always says, yeah, we don't do that here. It's funny. We don't do that here. We don't do 110. It's 105. It's always 105. Okay.
Okay.
So Every situation is different. So assess the situation on its own merits. Now, seller, if there's an HOA, this is where you're going to put it. How much is the HOA? If it's X number of dollars per month, you put it there and then you say per month. In this case, there are none, so I'm putting NA. This is it. This next line is if there's an HOA, a special assessment for the HOA. You would put the amount there and then you'd put per month or annually or one-time payment here. Okay. Let's see. These are all standard terms and conditions. If you have not read the contract yet, you should be studying it and knowing exactly what it says. Attorneys technically are supposed to explain the contract. You're supposed to fill in the blanks and explain what you're filling in, but you would not be a professional if you did not know what the contract says and could easily explain it in basic detail. Okay, we're gonna do, so here. Seller further represents that there are or are not improvements to the real estate which are not included in the full determination of the most ascertained assessment. So if this is supposed to be on the listing sheet somewhere, but if there was a major improvement on the property or it was new construction, you might not have the full determination of the total assessment yet. Okay. In most cases, the answer here is are not. And if that is not the correct answer, the seller should be correcting it. Are there improvements which are eligible for the home improvement tax exemption? The seller should disclose that if they've done major improvements again or it's new construction. Okay. Unconfirmed pending special assessment affecting the real estate by an association or government. So the association could have an unconfirmed special assessment, or believe it or not, even the government can. For example, if there was no alley and an alley was put in on a property, they would be having a special tax assessment. So they should notify you of that. It barring any notification, the answer is going to be is not. And the same thing about being in a special assessment area or special service, where special service payments are made. That would be like a new development where they had to bring the utilities to the property, the sewer, the water, the gas, everything. And the seller for X number of years has to pay a special service fee for having those utilities brought to the property. So unless you're selling unless you're selling new construction or something in a remote area that was once farm area turned into a subdivision, this is probably going to be is not for you as well. Okay. Moving on. Unless you're a dual agent, this should say not applicable. Unless they are selling a property or have to close on a property to close on this transaction, all of these should say NA. And nothing here will be filled in. So I'm just putting blanks in. I mean, NAs in the blanks. Contract is, this is also has to is related to contingency on sale or or closing of another property. All of this whole section, it has to do with that. So again, I'm just looking for blanks and and putting something in them. Waiver of condition. Oh, this is also related to that. This is if an offer does come in and you're contingent, you get the opportunity to waive your contingencies before they kill it. If there was a prior contract on the property that you're making an offer on, this is where you would put the date in by which the seller must have that prior contract canceled so that your contract can be in full force and effect. This is not going to apply here. If you come across any of these unusual situations or less common situations, make sure you're talking to Joe or somebody on the ALC or Kim if you're in her PC program to ask how to handle the situation. Don't assume anything. If the seller's offering a home warranty or your client wants a home warranty, this is where you're going to put in the maximum amount of the home warranty to be paid by the seller, which is usually about $600. This is if there's possession after the closing. Let's say the seller said that they need to stay, you know, a day or two after closing, because that's when the, you know, they'll be able to have the moving truck come to take their stuff across country or whatever the case may be, or because their home won't be finished being, you know, they won't be able to close on their home, or won't be finished being built until a certain date. This is where you would put that in, that information in. If another party has to approve the property, not recommended, but sometimes it happens, that's where you would put their name in. And then this is if you have any additional attachments to the offer. Right now, we're not going to have any, so we're going to put NA. And then this is if you have miscellaneous provisions, such as it's a short sale, it's 4 units or more, it's a tax deferred exchange, new construction, it's vacant land, whatever. You would check off whatever box applies. Now we get to the last page. You see the offer date is in there, my buyer's name, buyer's address, buyer's email address, so what information I have for the seller, limited as it may be, it's still in there. If I don't know their address, I put the property address that I'm writing the offer on. Here's where the listing, the buyer's information would be. Now you see that it doesn't include the MLS ID or the license number. Now, I know my license number. I know the office's license number. I don't know the listing agents. Now, the listing agent's MLS number, remember we said, is on the MLS. Oh, I can't think right now. Is on the MLS. So you'd get it off the MLS, you'd put it here. You could look up their state license number, but I don't go that far. Okay. Once in a great while I will. Usually I don't. If you want to, it's on IDFPR. You just look up their name and there's their license number. Okay. Same thing here. Same thing for the office as well as the agent. Again, I would fill this in. I don't know why I'm drawing a blank right at this moment. I know this by heart.
Is it 12 numbers? 12 or 10?
Hang on, I have it in my phone. My brain is gone. 481 481 123 67 167 167. Okay. Now if you're in more, your MLS office MLS number is different than mine, because I have to use a car number. Okay, so I put mine in there. I don't know why it didn't transfer my phone number over here, but it should have. It doesn't. The system is not perfect. So I'm going to say the system is not perfect, and don't waste your time getting frustrated with it, because you want to make money. You don't want to complain and drain your energy with that. You want to make money. All right, so then I would put in the listing agent's MLS ID, phone number, fax number. I would pull it off the MLS. Now, email address. And then now attorneys. If you don't know the seller's attorney yet, for sure. You just don't. If you know who your buyer is going to use, put it in. You may not know that right now. That's okay. Don't freak out over it. Not a big deal. If your buyer's getting a mortgage, guess what? You know the mortgage information. Put it in there. Okay, the mortgage company, the phone number, the loan officer's email address and name. Put that in there. If there's not a homeowners association, you're going to put NA here again. It may not. Now, you're not going to put NA for the attorneys, because guess what? There will be attorneys. You just don't know who they are right now. Okay. If your lender is Michelle, you're going to put it in here, ultimate rate, right? You're going to put the phone number. You're going to put her name in here. And her direct phone number and her email address. Okay. You're not going to put anything down here because you're not the seller. That's when the seller rejects the offer. All right. So we're going to save and close. Any questions about filling in blanks?
Oh, thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna do save and close. And I am going to wait patiently. All right, now the next step is to go to envelopes. So I'm gonna go to envelopes. I have to make a new envelope because there's not one there for this. And it's going to be, you can, I don't know, Nicole, do you have a specific way that you like to have the envelope named? I always do the address. I don't, I don't put Illinois because guess what? We're licensed in Illinois. We sell real estate in Illinois. That's a given. I usually put the street address, Chicago, and the city and the zip. And then I put offer. That's how I do it. And then I'm going to add the documents, right? So I want the room documents. I actually want all of them. So I'm going to add them. Now, once they're added in there, I can click add recipient, pre-tagged roles. That's going to give me, let's see, the only ones I have is the buyer, right? Right at this time. So the buyer is this one.
Testing,
And-
testing.
Yeah. I can hear you now. And then I'm
Thank
also
you.
I'm gonna add a recipient from the room participant. Oh, yeah, the room participants. I have to add me because I have to sign the lead paint disclosure and the radon disclosure. So I have to select me as the buyer's agent. Okay, so I selected my name once with a different email address as the buyer and then my name as the buyer's agent. Okay. Now, down here, what I do, because it makes my life easy, is I copy my envelope name because this is what's going to my client. And it will
That's
say,
exactly what I teach. Thank
It
you
will
for
say-
showing that.
please DocuSign 7349 Howard offer. And then down here, I type my message, right? Hi, Sally. Here are the offer docs for your e-signature period. Please review and call me with any questions or concerns before signing. Okay, that's all I have to say. Then I don't want the documents in this order because I'm anal. I want my contract to show up first, the disclosures to show up next, and the affiliated business arrangement to show up last. That's how I choose to do it. Okay. Your deal, your choice. It's your business. Then you just click next. And now this is where you're going to make sure all of your initials and signature boxes are in and where you want them to be, where they need to be, etc. All right. So right now, oh, this is going to be tricky, isn't it? Because I have the same name. So let me just go down here for a second. So yellow is the buyer, okay? Blue is going to be me as the buyer's agent. That was probably a bad mistake. I should have chosen my husband. Anyway, so as the buyer, I'm going to go through and make sure my buyer's initials and signatures are everywhere where I need them to be. Rather than confuse my brain, I do it one person at a time. So I go through. I need a buyer's initial here. Great. Why it's up there, I don't know. You can move it. You just click it and move it. Okay. Continuing down, where else do I need a buyer's initial? I do need a buyer's initial here, but I need it on the line, preferably. It normally shows up on the line. I don't know why it's not right now. It normally shows up at least closer to the line. Okay, because they are getting fine. Oh, and oh, here's another thing. You see how this isn't yellow? You see how this is yellow? And this is not yellow? That means this is not a required field. then they can blow by it. I don't want that. So over here, I'm going to make it a required field. Okay. Continuing down. It's not a cash transaction, so I'm taking this out altogether. I don't want to confuse them with it. You just click on it and hit delete. Okay. This has to be here. Again, this is not a cash transaction. Getting rid of that. We're good here. Here's another tip. If you click on this, if you click on the box and just hit your down arrow on your computer, you can move it. Waiver of professional inspections. I definitely don't want that waived. Delete. Don't want the buyer to accidentally initial it. So I'm looking for any initial boxes that need to be activated, deleted, moved, what have you. Okay, so these four, I definitely want them. They're marked as required. I want to move all four of them. I can move them all individually, or I could go like this, and I can move them all at once.
Oh, that's a nice idea.
Yeah.
All together.
Okay, it's handy.
Mhm.
Again, some of this stuff I found out strictly by accident. You know, I accidentally did it, and it worked. I was like, oh, cool.
Mhm.
Okay, now we get to the real meat and potatoes, right? Because we have a lot of initial boxes here. So these two I don't want, because it is not a dual agency, and it is not contingent on a sale or closing. So just highlight them, delete. And then this goes down here. All right. Cancellation of prior contract does not apply. Home warranty does not apply. If there were a well and septic on the property, I would definitely want an initial here. In this case, there's not. So these three can go. If it was a VA loan, you would have to have the wood destroying infestation signed. If it's a frame home and you have any concerns, you would want to also have them do the termite inspection. If not, you delete it. Same thing with possession after closing. It doesn't apply, so I just deleted it. As is, if it was an as is property, I would keep that. I would move it down, put it where it belongs, and I would make it required, right? If not, I would delete it. Let's just assume it applies. Specified party approval, any additional attachments or miscellaneous provisions. If any of these applied, I would put them where they belong, make them required. They don't apply, they will be deleted. Okay. And signature needs to be down here. Okay, looking good, looking good. Now we come to the disclosures. Okay, so on this one, you need to have a couple of things, right? You need to have the buyer's signature. So we're just going to grab the signature and plop it in there. And we want it dated. So we're going to put the date. I'm going to put it up here because if you've ever seen these dates, it'll like be long. I'll have the date and the time and what the sun was doing at that moment and everything. So I don't put it right down here because it'll be typing over this. So I usually put it a little bit above just so it has room to do it. On this page, the second page, or in some cases the fourth page like this, see it says date provided to buyer? What I do, so there's no mistaking it, is I put the buyer's initial there, and then I put the date that they initialed it there. Okay? That just takes care of it. Now, Radon disclosures. Radon disclosure. We need, all right. This first one, E, purchaser has received copies of all information listed above. If up here they said they had radon and they had reports, that's when they initial this. If there are no reports to give to the buyer's not receiving anything. So there doesn't need to be an initial there. There needs to be an initial, however, here for sure. Purchaser received the approved radon disclosure pamphlet. Why did they receive it? Because you gave it to them. Or
Yeah. What is
you
the
sent-
E one? The previous one, purchases.
The previous one is if the seller had reports up here that they had to give to the buyer, if there was radon and the seller had reports or records pertaining to it that they gave to the buyer, that's when it says,
Okay.
purchaser has received copies of all information listed above. If there's nothing up here, then they didn't receive anything.
Okay. I
Now,
got it.
here's another thing too. You might want to make this initial smaller. You just grab it by one of the corners and make it smaller, right? Once you make it smaller, every time you insert an initial now going forward in this document, it will be smaller. Not in another document, only in this one. Okay?
Mhm.
In this file, I should say.
Yeah.
So then I'm going to put down here, I need to put the buyer's signature. And I might want to make that a little smaller just so it's not going over anybody else's. And then the date. Okay. And then here again, the first one does not apply if no information or reports were provided from the seller regarding lead paint. But the second and third do apply. So I need an initial here. See how my initial is small like I made it the first time?
Yeah.
And then I'm put an initial here. Now they also need to check one of these boxes. So I'm going to add a checkbox right here. And I'm going to add another checkbox. I just clicked the add and I put that down here so that they're tied together. When I do it that way, it's an either or.
Oh,
They have to
okay.
choose one or the other. Okay. And as long as it's not read only, they should have to make a choice. They sometimes don't, I notice. So if you have the conversation with them, hey, look, I know you're going to have a home inspection. I just want to know, do you think you're going to have a radon inspection and a lead paint inspection? You talk to them about it. If they say, no, we're probably not. You could put a check here, but still leave it available for them to switch it like it is now. The way that you do that is you go to checkbox values over here and you just check the second box. Now it will be there, they will see it, but they still have the ability to change it. But that way they don't miss it and you don't get a blank box back. But have the conversation, don't assume.
Okay.
Now, we're gonna put a signature line down here.
Will it let them be able to send it to you even if they don't have anything selected?
Yeah, that's the problem.
Okay.
I don't know why. If it's a required field, it shouldn't, but it does.
Okay. Thank you.
Because I think what they do is it'll tell them that you're not done and it'll say skip, they'll just click skip and finish.
Okay.
I think that's what they are able to do. So there's their signature and their date. I'm at the end. Oh no, I've got one more document. Okay. So here I'm going to put the date that they signed. I'm going to put their name. I'm going to put their signature. And I'm going to go down here. I'm going to put the check boxes in again. Now here, I don't select one. I leave them blank, but I could. So I'm going to add another one so they're tied together, remember? So it's an either or. And then I just have to put the box where I want it and make sure that it's not read only. So they have to choose. Here, I'm less concerned about it because I'll just have the conversation later. But the other one, because this doesn't go to anyone but our office, this document. And I need another signature down here. Now I'm done. I'm done, or am I done? Am I done now? Can I send it?
For one person, you are done, right? With the buyer?
I'm done with the buyer, right?
Yeah.
And now I have to do the agent, the buyer's agent, myself. So I'm at the bottom. Anything I have to do is at the bottom. So I'm just gonna go up instead of down. So I need my signature here, right? So I'll put that in there. I can even put the date of my signature if I want. It's not required, but I can if I want. Oh, and I forgot this. So I need a text box, right?
Mhm.
So I'm gonna put a text box here. I know it has to be bigger than that. And I'm gonna type in, you could double click here, I think. Nope, you click over here. 7349 West Howard Street is the property that I'm selling. And so then I put that in there. It is not a required field, so I could take that off. It's a read-only field. And I can change the, I know there's a way to change the font on here. Hang on, it goes down here. Formatting. If you wanted to make it bigger, you can. Okay. Now, continuing up, I am the buyer's agent. Therefore, I also have to sign the disclosures, right? So I'm going to put my signature box here. Maybe make it a little smaller just because they've got their date there. And, you know, I'll put it wherever I want. I'm not really on the line right now, but that's fine. The date that I signed it's going to go here. And I'm going to give myself room. And here's another thing. I can change that to a much smaller font too, so that it takes less space on the date. And then going back up to that was the lead disclosure. And I also have to sign the radon disclosure. So I'm going to plop my signature in there and the date right there. And then I don't have to sign the property disclosure, and there's nothing on the contract for me to sign. So now I'm ready. So I click send. Oh, Shaheen, you're probably going to get that.
Yeah, I know.
I wasn't thinking about that.
Yeah.
Okay, so
No,
now
I
it
thought,
tells
yeah.
so now it tells me it needs my signature, so I can sign it right now. And my watch and my phone and everything are all vibrating now. Because I got it in a personal email and I got it in my business email.
I got it too.
Yep, there you go. And then so once I click on I want to sign now, then I just click continue. And it's going to, and I click start. It's going to take me right to where I have to sign. I click sign. I click sign. I click sign.
No,
It's
I did
done.
not get it. No.
It's done, and I click finish. Oh, you know why you didn't get it? I didn't put you on there to send it to
Yeah.
you.
It was
Yeah.
some different email. I thought I got it. Yeah.
Yeah, I did too when I heard that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't put you on there yet because my client didn't sign it yet, and you're the
Hmm.
listing agent. So
Yeah, I'm the listing.
yeah.
Okay.
So now it's waiting for the buyer to sign. Okay, are we good with that?
Yes.
Wow, we're 2 hours in here, and let's see, where are we supposed to be? We're supposed to present the offer. Presenting the offer really is, you're going to send the email. You've already had a conversation with the listing agent. You're going to send the email. You're going to attach the document. You can even forward the document that you get from DocuSign with the document, the signed document attached to it. But I would delete all the DocuSign stuff because I think it's got a link to log into your account. So delete all that. And you're also going to call the listing agent and say, just want to update you. I just sent you the offer. Please check your email. If it's not in your inbox, check your junk mail. Okay. So then we go on to representing the seller. Hey, Nicole. Nicole.
Yes.
So we just covered the buyer side of making offers and presenting it.
You're
And
amazing.
I'm amazing, but this is a 4-hour class that we're trying to and now we're just starting at the seller side of it, like receiving offers. We're 2 hours in. I'm thinking that we should schedule the seller side for another day,
I think that's a great plan.
because I don't want to rush through it and not and not be able to cover how sellers handle multiple offers. You know, putting an offer in command for the seller to sign when they receive it, all of that. Everybody who's on the class, are you in agreement on postponing the seller side of all this to another day?
Yeah, sure.
100%.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
fine.
because I don't want to cheat you out of the information. These classes are designed to be like 4 or 5 hours long.
So
So
much details. Yeah.
when we're doing the detail and actually doing the role play and filling in the documents on command, I don't want to rush and cheat you guys out of what you need to learn. So I think that's best. We can speak with Tony or who's ever doing the calendar for this month and find another slot to put it in, okay?
Thanks, Sally.
Yeah, to be determined. Sal, you and I can talk when you've got
Yeah.
some time.
It will be quick though. It'll be, you know, if I know there's more Ignite classes coming up and I know you don't want to be in class every day, but I mean, even if we have to do it on a Saturday, I'm cool with that, a Saturday morning. Whatever, we'll figure it out. Okay, guys?
Thank you so much
Yeah,
for everything.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. If you have any questions or concerns, you know, feel free to shoot me an email or something and I'll respond. And again, we'll really dig into the seller side of the whole offer process and how to evaluate multiple offers the next time we come around. And remind me too, that when we do that, I'll show you how to go in the tax records and things like that to do your research. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
All right. Thanks
Thank you
guys
so
for
Great
your
job,
attention.
Sally.
Thank you. Thanks
It
for
was
everybody's
very good
attention.
class.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Thank
everybody.
you very much. I'm glad that you
Thank you.
enjoyed it and I hope you learned a lot.
It was much needed. I just needed like a couple of things that I was doing very much wrong on that.
It's
Yeah.
funny how just tweaking 1 or 2 things can make all the difference. It really, you know, and
Yeah,
like,
if you do one mistake, the next time I was doing on the buyer, and then it came all the information for the seller. I said, "Oh, really? What happened?"
oops.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it takes your, when you figure out 1 or 2 little things, it takes your stress level from here down to here.
Yeah.
That's what we need, you know, to keep our stress down and not be too agitated with the system. But sometimes it's just a matter, like even the second time I went into the opportunities, remember I forgot to click buyer. So it was coming up, like you said, it was coming up as a
Yeah.
seller opportunity.
Yeah.
I'm like, no.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, guys. Thank you for your time
Thank
and
you so
attention. I
much. Yeah.
appreciate it. All right.
Thank
I'll
you.
see you next
Appreciate it.
time.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye.